Hi, I'm Jonathan Probets. I'm a community nurse specialist and a health technologist down in Torbay, down in the southwest of England. And I'm here to introduce Atif. Atif, who are you?
My name's Atif Nasim. I live just north of London, actually, and I'm the founder of Immersive Horizons, a company focused on XR and AI implementations. So I'm pleased to be here on our first podcast, John.
Indeed. So this is all about trying to talk about XR and AI technologies and how they're used in healthcare, who's doing it well, what challenges they have to overcome. And I think we really kind of started this Atif because we wanted to learn about who's doing what out in the wild and hopefully try and showcase some really good examples of using it for patient benefit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we met at I think it was at a conference, right? The healthcare technology conference, and yeah, one of the things that really amazes me and still does is how so many people who are kind of their first job is as a medic. They've gone through all of that, but they're also doing a lot of tech stuff on the side. People like yourself and so many
Mm.
others I've met. So I think what we're going to try and do here is, like you say, is highlight some of those the amazing work people are doing in that area to showcase it to the rest of the NHS and also to anyone else listening out there who wants to see this being used to really help all of us as
Because
users.
this stuff's difficult, isn't it?
It is, yeah,
Really?
yeah. It's quite amazing people are doing such two diverse things. I'm doing this full time on the technical side, and it's it is hard to imagine that I could also be a doctor at the same time.
Okay. So what I'm keen to know is a little bit about your background as we kind of set the scene for these conversations. So you come from petrochemicals, haven't you?
Yeah. So I spent about 6 years with Shell
Mm.
doing various, on the IT side, doing various IT projects, but a large part of that was implementing these XR solutions. They're kind of end to end. Mainly in a safety use case for them. But yeah, spent a while with them doing that.
And when we say XR, we're talking about how are you defining that with your clients at the moment?
Yeah, so it's interesting, and it shows perhaps a lack of maturity in the space that these things are not that well defined. But XR, or extended reality, is what it's short for. Combines all of the kind of VR and AR and mixed reality underneath it. So virtual reality is fairly clear as to what it is. You're completely immersed. You can't see anything else when you put the headsets on. So things like the Pico and MetaQuest do
Mm.
that, the most popular ones. You have AR, which is augmented reality, which some people also call mixed reality. You kind of merge the two things together, but genuine augmented reality is maybe what RealWear type solution, Magic Leap, HoloLens, which is kind of reaching end of life, where you can we have a headset on, but you can see the outside world and things are overlaid directly on it. That's real, genuine augmented reality. And then you have mixed reality, which again things like the MetaQuest and Pico do, um, where and I think the Apple the Vision Pro will come under that as well, where you can switch it so you can see the outside world, but it's being projected onto a screen rather than being able to see it directly. And it makes it quite powerful. You can do things. Sometimes, there are issues a little bit with lag sometimes with those, but they're improving all the time. And
Mm.
it's seen sometimes as the ideal solution because with those headsets you can do virtual or mixed reality and kind of get best of both worlds. So all of that would come under extended reality in my eyes.
Okay, so when we're talking about XR, that's kind of like an umbrella term for all of those cool things that are going on. And you mentioned in Shell that you were using it particularly from a kind of safety aspect. Can you say more about that? What did you do with it exactly?
So companies like Shell, they tend to adhere to something called the life-saving rules. So they're an industrial standard in that sense, and I think there were about nine of them when I last encountered them. Things like working at height, driving, hot work, things like this. Mainly things that are for people who work on in those harsh environments. But even as office workers, everybody has to sign up to it,
Mm.
and adhere to it. So the idea was that the current training was being done on desktop, like normally you would have in many companies, and it was about how we can enhance that training and make it more impactful. And so virtual reality was brought in as an option to see that being more immersive and more effective and helping people retain more information. It was seen as a solution to that. So we brought it in, did various pilots with it, proving as we went along that the effectiveness of it, and then it kind of went all the way through to being operationalized.
Mm.
And the idea is, that particularly with safety, if you're able to make more impactful training, make things better for people, so that it really has a great influence on them, then they will are more likely to act on it,
Mm.
and safer. So making a safer environment for themselves and their colleagues was something really important and is a high value.
Was there something that happened that sort of caused them to realise what we're doing now isn't enough? What prompted them to leap into the XR world for delivering this stuff?
Companies like that, safety is a very of high importance to them. So every injury, every fatality, everything is measured
Mm.
because the people are working in high risk environments there. So it's always up there as very important. And they were going through a safety refresh at the time, which involved a number of areas, and this was one of the things they looked at. And there was talk of kind of a safety of a plateau being reached, where the training being given just wasn't improving things anymore. Uh, that was a feeling. So how can we kind of jerk that into life and to improve things? And so that's why virtual reality was looked at as an option to be done. And there were a few vendors initially we looked at who had products. And the beauty of using of it being an industrial standard meant that we didn't have to customize things for ourselves. It didn't have to be exact. It meant that whatever was out there would be suitable because it was a standard that everyone was using.
Right. Okay. So were other companies using this stuff before you got involved? I mean, who were your kind of role models at the time?
To be honest, in that industry, there were a few people tinkering with it, but
Yeah.
really, Shell were at the forefront then of doing this. As far as this particular use case, they were right up there,
Right.
to be
So
doing
it's
it.
really interesting because this is groundbreaking stuff. Really, kind of getting people. How was the training delivered initially? Was this all classroom based? Was it
Yeah, yeah. So
sat
on
in
deck,
front of the computer?
yeah, yeah, laptops. So as most
Right.
training is, which is an easy way to deliver training because everyone has a laptop typically. It's
Oh, it's
also very
cheap,
cheap.
isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So
So at some stage, somebody's decided this isn't enough, and we need to embrace this new tech, this XR that we've seen. That's a really brave decision.
it is, and it's but if it's everything comes down to value and a dollar figure, right? That's
Right.
how business, even the NHS, will be the same thing. Comes down to that: how much money can you save? How much will it make, and what impact will it have on that? And so safety and fatality and these things ultimately they do have a value attached to them as well, to you as a company, and it's not nobody wants to have that associated with them. So you want to try and reduce it as much as possible. And what you have to do whenever you introduce any technology, and we went through a number of pilots and tests, is to prove its effectiveness,
Hmm.
which is particularly challenging in a safety environment because you need to do it really over the space of 2 or 3 years realistically to show that you're making an impact, and then you have to demonstrate that what you're doing is what's made the impact. So it's really tough. So we had to do all sorts of things to shorten that time, to get people's opinions in surveys, to really prove and show that this is really making a difference to them, that they're really feeling more. So we visited sites, we went there, we talked to them, we interviewed people as to the impact. We interviewed their team leaders, and people were saying to us, "This is, I am remembering this stuff when I'm going out now. It's making and they're really excited about it." And that's the other thing about traditional training is people you're constantly hitting the snooze button, trying to,
Hmm.
when Friday, it's a Friday afternoon job, and you keep putting it off. With this, people were looking forward to it, and they were coming up to us saying, "Why can't all our training be in this
That's really
environment?"
interesting. What? Tell me about those people then. So, what kind of roles are we talking about here? Kind of,
Real,
for me, in layman's terms.
real. I mean, the target audience was real kind of blue collar workers, people in
Okay.
refineries, hard hats, overalls, that sort of thing. So they're the ones really at risk. So the idea is that the more risk there is with this use case, the more value there will be, right? Because the
Hmm.
more preventative this is. So those are the initial target groups. So you're working with those sort of people who they might have seen a VR. Is like most people, some of their kids have it, but it was new training to them. It was new, and to get their time, they're all working in harsh environments on shifts. To get their
Right.
time to be able to do this was, it's all part of the challenge of getting this underway. But they were really good, and then we had to train up super users as well on each site so they could take it on.
Are these people all spread out all over the place, or
So when we did our pilots, we did it in. There was one in the Caribbean. I traveled to Canada. Somewhere last year that I traveled to Canada, California,
wow,
Belgium, um, to visiting sites and people there who were going to take this on.
gosh, okay. And what sort of age range are we talking? Mix of ages, or
Yeah, a mix, I'd
okay,
say. Yeah, yeah,
okay. So I know that we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole here, but it's just interesting stuff. So let's carry on anyway, if that's all right.
yeah,
Um,
sure.
so you effectively put together a business case to say
Yeah, yeah,
we've tried this stuff out and it works and it's good value and it's more effective at reducing risks than the current state.
yeah,
It-
absolutely. And there was a lot to it, doing it end to end, because it's and bringing a new technology in. They tried it before a few years earlier when the technology wasn't that great. You had a huge headset that was heavy and had to be connected with a 10-meter cable to a gaming laptop, and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, and you have to have four posts in each corner of the room. It was really,
yeah,
and
I
then
remember those.
quality itself wasn't great. So that left a bad taste in some people's mouths from the previous attempts. So overcoming all of that. So while we worked with the kind of refinery workers, we also had to work with the leadership as well at some point to get them to buy in. So attending events. So it was really about creating a whole marketing plan for how you're going to push this within the company. You might think that you're working in a company and they're given budget for it, therefore everything's easy. It's not. You're vying with loads of other people for that budget, and then you
Yeah.
have to really in an entrepreneurial way to make it happen. So you have to,
Now that's
really,
really interesting. The whole entrepreneurial side of things is very interesting, I think.
yeah,
Because we all work in silos, don't we? And
yeah,
actually to get exciting stuff like this done, um, you've really got, in my experience, you've really got to forget about those boundaries and actually be prepared to take risks and work
yeah,
up on a cross. Did you have any dinosaurs that you had to deal with? You know what I'm talking about?
yeah, yeah. There's all sorts of people. There's a lot of people who. I mean, it's not just to do with what you're referring to there, right? It was all sorts of people. People that had a bad experience before. Some people just didn't.
Right.
It was some sort of gimmick. Some people seeing their kids using it and thinking, well, how's this going to help us, right?
Mm.
But I found with this sort of technology, the only way to do it, and it's the magic of it really, is that people have to try it on. You have to get it on people's heads. You can talk them to death, send them videos, do PowerPoints, whatever. It's not going to help. But once they've had it on for 5 minutes, that the person that comes out the other side once they've had that on is someone else, right? And then they get it. Then they'll say to you, "I get it now," right? And that's
And this is
really,
exactly what happened to me. This is exactly what happened to me. So when I first met you in Birmingham, I've got VR at home. We've got we had a PS4. We've got rid of it now. Um, but you're absolutely right. It's that putting it on the head, experiencing it, that really shifts you from being interested to actually believing. And I think you have to believe in this stuff.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so yeah, I think when I tried a couple of headsets on at the conference Birmingham that we went to. It was the XR UK conference that Dr. Nick Perez, who works in my organisation, very kindly invited me to, and there were several exhibitors there, yourself included, and I tried one on there, and I think we did the walking the plank
Yeah.
exercise, which is probably really old school, but what's interesting about that is that it's not real. You're wearing a headset. The graphics on that particular example are, they're not realistic, and that you're in a room, and that you're walking on a plank on the floor, and yet your brain is still telling you. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's extraordinary.
It is. Yeah, but it's that ability to, and from a safety context, that you're able to, we used to call it failing safe, right? So you're able to make mistakes in that environment, and it's realistic enough for your brain to think you've made a mistake, so you retain the learning from it without injuring
Right,
yourself, and that's quite
right.
powerful. And so
And
the whole journey.
this is
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and the whole journey of doing this um, is what led me to start this company in the first place, right? Because that end-to-end experience I had, and went through, it turns out, there's a lot of companies out there. I was asked to speak at a Metro event after I left, and it turns out a lot of people there were stuck in similar places and didn't really know how to go about it. So there was enough there for me to think, this experience of learning, and the ability to be able to take technology from start to operationalization correctly in the right way, right? So going through the right steps is really important, and so that's kind of what I do now. Is just supporting organizations in doing that, who look to do it properly, and who should be really, I always encourage people, do it properly, put thought into it. Sometimes with these
mm,
headsets, easy to just grab a few and just kind of wing it, but that comes to an end very quickly, and bitterly sometimes. But when people are stuck in pilots and things like that, and so that was kind of the reasoning behind it all, that I tried to do, and it's the same for
wow.
any tech.
Yeah, that's right, and that's kind of why we're also interested in AI and
Yeah, AI is
those
similar.
kinds of things. Yeah, that's
And
right.
there's a lot of people excited moving on with AI, and it's slightly similar but different journey. But
Mm,
ultimately, it comes to a halt because, if you don't know what problem you're trying to solve, if you don't have a good enough use case, for AI, you might look cool, but if it's not adding value to your organization, it won't go very far. So again, it's about doing that, putting thought into that, and doing it the right way.
mm. Okay, so really, kind of tour of a very small part of what you've done in your career. Um, I think I'm really excited to be learning more about that, and also to people in the NHS and in other industries. So it's all this applies anyway. It's all change, isn't it? It's all people change. It's all
It is. Yeah.
just spend. So I'm looking forward to having those conversations. So yeah, if anyone out there is interested in sharing their experiences about what they've done, cool stuff they've done in the AI, in the XR space, we want to hear from you. We want to share that. Talk about things and have a bit of a chat about how you did it, problems you faced.
Yeah. No, sounds good. And
Okay.
the plan for our podcast now is for myself and Jonathan to talk to the people who's mentioning, people out there who have done things, so we can showcase it, and we can have that discussion. So hopefully in 2025, the rest of these podcasts that you'll see will have various guests on there, and we'll see some really cool things that we can all learn from and be wowed by.